At the Kennedy Space Center, Artemis with NASA's most powerful rocket ever, the Space Launch System, or SLS, on a 12-hour 4-mile crawl to the launch pad and a high-stakes frenetic countdown blitz for yet another date with history. For the first time since Apollo 17 in 1972, 4 astronauts are headed for a lunar rendezvous. Victor, Christina, Jeremy, we're going to the moon, and here we go. November 16, 2022, 2765. 4-stage engines start. 3:21, boosters in ignition, and liftoff of Artemis I. We rise together back to the moon and beyond, roaring off launch, pad 39B, at the Kennedy Space Center, NASA's Artemis I, an uncrewed test flight around the moon and a high-resolution, 80-mile-high flyover. Now you are seeing the Earth. You are seeing home. You are seeing yourself in that image, right there. All to test a brand new rocket and a crew capsule named Orion. This is the moment of truth for Orion. After 25 days and 1.4 million miles, a fiery re-entry as Orion came screaming back to Earth at 32 times the speed of sound, then 300 miles south of San Diego, splashed down. The latest chapter of NASA's journey to the moon comes to a close. Orion back on Earth, a picture-perfect mission with NASA precision, setting the stage for humans. There's a lot out there to explore, and this is the next beginning, and this is the Artemis generation. Fast forward to 2026 and the dawn of a new era. Artemis II, stacked and ready for launch, America's biggest lunar mission in 53 years. Artemis II is a 10-day mission, slingshotting around the moon with 4 astronauts on board, testing all of the crew's systems before Artemis III is set to land on the moon. Artemis is Commander Reed Weissman, originally from Baltimore, a retired Navy captain fighter pilot, and a single father of 2 after his wife Carol passed away. He spent 165 days on the space station in 2014 and served as the chief of the astronaut office. Pilot Victor Glover, a U.S. Navy pilot who served on the crew, one mission to the space station, where he also served as a flight engineer originally from California. He is married with 4 children. Mission specialist Christina Cook set a record for the longest single spaceflight by a woman with 328 days in space and participated in the first all-female spacewalk growing up in Michigan and North Carolina. An astronaut, Jeremy Hansen is a former fighter pilot and aquanaut, originally from Ontario. He is married with 3 teenagers and proud to be the first Canadian headed to the moon. The U.S. shines in space leadership, and they create this place where other countries like Canada can bring our genius and contribute in a meaningful way. Artemis is the twin Greek god of Apollo with perfect aim. Flanked with 2 boosters, Artemis is 15% more powerful than the monster Saturn. 5 rockets that carried Apollo astronauts to the moon more than 50 years ago. The Eagle has landed and NASA is building heavily on the lessons learned from Apollo. We are ready for every scenario as we ride this amazing space launch system in the Orion spacecraft, 250,000 miles away. It's going to be amazing. On mission day 1, Artemis will blast off with 8.8 million pounds of thrust. In just 9 minutes, they'll be in Earth orbit. And so once we get to space, the ascent portion really ends after about a half an orbit, when we're going to go from a 1,200 mile by 0 mile orbit to doing what we call a Perig gas maneuver that gets us into a stable and sustainable orbit. And then we're going to get a couple of us out of our seats and start to check out really critical systems, the water system and the toilet. After a series of Earth orbits, they'll head to the moon. On flight day 6, the Artemis II crew will fly closer to the moon than any astronaut since Apollo 17 landed there in 1972 for the first time, putting human eyes on a remote side of the moon. We hope it's not the dark side. We hope it's the lit far side, because that could mean that we could see parts of the moon that never have had human eyes lay upon them before. And then they'll keep going in a big circle. 8. Traveling 4,600 miles beyond the moon before returning back to Earth. All 10 days spent inside their Orion crew capsule, about the size of a large minivan. The biggest difference between Orion and the Apollo crew capsule is, first of all, it's bigger, about 33% bigger. 4 astronauts will be inside Orion instead of 3 in Apollo, and Orion uses solar power rather than Apollo's battery power.
For 3 years, all 4 have been training together in this very tight space. How do you prepare and practice for that, Christina? How do you literally sit elbow to elbow, shoulder to shoulder, no personal privacy, no private space to prepare for this intensity?
I think a big part of preparing for being in a small space together is respect and practice. We came up with some rules. Hey, headphones, that means pretend I'm not here. I have my headphones on. I'm taking a break. But also just we learned how to give each other grace and what that feels like, literally bumping into each other all the time.
Artemis is about reclaiming America's leadership in space. Roger, tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You've got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot, and setting the stage for a 21st century lunar landing now today. The moon is calling us again.
Harrison Schmitt walked on the moon in that final Apollo 17 mission in 1972. Cold War, too, has started, in my opinion. But the 2026 space race is not with Russia. It's with China.
Already, China has built a robotic base on the moon with plans to land its own astronauts there by 2030. Former commercial astronaut Jared Isaacman is NASA's new administrator. Within the next 3 years, we are going to land American astronauts again on the moon, but this time with the infrastructure to stay, and American politicians are determined not to let China get there first.
I'll be damned if the Chinese beat NASA or beat America back to the moon. We're going to win.
We have liftoff, super heavy, go Starship. To get there, NASA is depending on the Elon Musk SpaceX mega rocket called Starship, standing nearly 400 ft tall. Starship is the biggest rocket ever built. Despite a perfect test flight in October 2025, Starship has suffered a series of high-profile setbacks after several test flights ended in explosions, with debris raining down over the Caribbean. The SpaceX plan used Starship to lift resupply fuel tanks into Earth orbit, then fuel up before heading to the moon and rendezvousing with Orion, which will carry 4 astronauts from Earth. Once in lunar orbit, 2 astronauts will board Starship for a lunar landing where they will live and work for more than 6 days. That's the plan. But a Starship lunar landing doesn't yet exist, and the clock is ticking down to the goal of a lunar landing in 2028. Concerned, NASA encouraged SpaceX rival Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin to also develop a lunar lander. Posting on X in 2025, Musk said setbacks are part of testing and learning to eventually take humans beyond the moon to Mars.
And NASA has also had to learn the Artemis I launch was delayed for several months due to a hydrogen fuel leak and 2 hurricanes. But launch director Charlie Blackwell Thompson says her team now has a much better understanding of the rocket.
Is there just some natural leaking that you've now come to realize? Is just that's what the vehicle does? There is some amount and there is some amount of allowable, and so you want to manage within your allowable, and that's where we got to with Artemis. With that 3rd launch countdown is we learned how to manage within our allowable leak rate.
Engineers also discovered problems with the Orion crew. Capsule's heat shield as Orion returned to Earth. The protective shield hit 5,000 degrees, half the temperature of the sun. To bleed off speed, NASA skipped the spaceship off the atmosphere before dipping back in. Engineers later discovered a charred layer of the heat shield where pieces had come off. NASA had to determine why, and then come up with a fix for the Artemis II mission.
Howard Hugh is the Orion program manager. Do you feel like you've solved the heat shield issue? Definitely we have. You know, like I said, we have found root cause, which is really important. We know what the heat shield is capable of and what we need to do to make the minor adjustments for the future vehicles.
The heat shield is all that stands between the astronauts and the extreme heat of the plasma on re-entry. The danger all too real for NASA. In 2003, the Space Shuttle Columbia broke apart on re-entry after a piece of the heat shield was damaged and came off during liftoff, killing all 7 astronauts. There are going to be real astronauts on board Orion 2. Does that raise the stakes for you guys? Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're flying people here and we've got to do the absolute best job we can. Their lives depend on you. They absolutely do. Us doing our job correctly. Now, a new chapter in America's love affair with all things space. 321. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis. 1. The Artemis mission is wrapped around a massive rocket weighing 6 million pounds at liftoff. 5 engines on the core stage and 2 solid rocket boosters, now propelling the vehicle at 128 MPa, 700,000 gallons of liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, pushing the entire stack to break the Earth's gravitational pull. Now, 1 minute 21 seconds into the flight, traveling at 1420 mph. 75% of its power comes from 2 solid rocket boosters borrowed from the Space Shuttle program. Confirmation that the solid rocket boosters have separated. 2 minutes into flight, those booster rockets are released as the core stage and its engines continue to propel Orion and the crew to space. After 3 minutes, the protective fairing around the service module's solar panels drops free. 8 minutes into flight, the core engine shuts down. Orion separates from the core and flies free, then deploys the 4 solar panels that power Orion to the moon and back. After 90